been paying attention to the news, it may seem like the world is burning around us, the world's falling apart. You look on the global stage, but when you turn off the news, you look around you, things are still business as usual, fortunately, when it comes to our day-to-day life. And when you look at what's on the calendar, next Tuesday is going to be Election Day, and municipal elections will still be taking place. And I think ultimately your local elections matter more to you day to day than anything else you hear coming from Washington, D.C. or anything like that. And I've been very excited to partner once again with Concord Patch and Concord TV to assist with the promotion of municipal elections debates that Tony Schinella has graciously moderated over the last few weeks. He runs the Concord Patch, and he is back here on the New England Take. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Concord, this cycle has a lot of municipal elections going on between school boards and the mayoral debate election and city councilors. But I want to immediately get to what I think is the biggest one. I want to talk about the mayoral debate. I watched your debate with Byron and George, and I also happened to watch the Concord Monitor debates that also feature Kate West, who is running, was not there for your debate with that you put on. Can you speak to that quickly and why one of the candidates wasn't there?
I can't really say why Kate West didn't show up, but I will say that it's been a consistent problem with her. She didn't respond in 2020 when she ran for school board to our free candidate profile offer, which we offer every candidate, state rep candidates, and the even years congressional candidates. Governor Schinella did it 1 year for Patch, which was great, and we also do it for school board and for city council and mayoral candidates too. She didn't respond. She didn't respond to emails or phone calls from me in 2020. She did not respond 3 years later. It was confusing in 2020 because these are low money races, although there's been a lot of cash thrown around in this cycle because of so many candidates. And if you don't have any money, or in her case, she's a single mom who was renting an apartment at the time in Ward 4, you want as much free exposure as possible. So that was a little confusing, but hey, it's a free offer. If you don't want to take it, you don't have to take it. It's no big deal to me. This cycle, it's understandable because I broke the story about the fact that she no longer lived in the district when she was serving in the school board and should have been removed months before she was. And so, hey, it is what it is. She did not tell the truth about being evicted. She was never evicted. She left. She left a week after she was given notice that the building was being sold. Anybody who knows the process of eviction in New Hampshire, it's a 90-day process. You can live in the apartment without paying for rent for 90 days before the sheriff show up and put a notice on your door and then come and get you. So she could have easily stayed in that apartment. The people who bought the apartment didn't even know they bought the building. I had a very odd conversation with the woman who bought the building. This was before I found out that she actually wasn't evicted. And I made a cold call to the woman who bought the building, and she denied buying the building. I mean, can you imagine, AJ, for a second, that and she's in the medical field. I won't get into it. If you really want to look for her, you can. But can you imagine being cold called by a journalist saying, I'd like to know why you've evicted this school board member at your building that you own, that's in your name with your address? Meaning I had her. I'm like, is this you? Is this your address? Yes, it is. You own this building. And she said, I don't own a building in Concord, New Hampshire.
Oh my God.
No lie. I mean, no lie. And I said, is this your cell number? Yes, it is. I said, I'm going to text you. And I texted her a screenshot of the assessor record showing her that she bought the building. She owned it. And she had no idea what I was talking about. Can you imagine that? That's crazy. So, Kate West doesn't want to participate in our debate, doesn't want to fill out candidate profiles. That's within her right. It's okay. But you don't not take free campaign promotion. but that's okay. And I know that a lot of her and her friends were upset um, by me breaking that story and doing a follow up story as well. I was the first one to report when she was removed, and whatever.
Yeah, is what it
Whatever.
is. I mean,
It's amateur. It's amateur hour in Concord with a lot of these people, and it's kind of it's kind of embarrassing for anybody who's ever done any political work. Knows how hard it is. I did it before I became a journalist. I did it while I was a journalist for a little while, trying to break into the business. It's not a place for amateurs. Don't be an amateur, you know. And we got a lot of amateurs, and there's a lot of interesting people running, you know. So it is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. And to give just my super brief takeaways from what she spoke about during the monitor debate, her primary thing is accessibility and diversity and equity and inclusion is basically 100% the only thing she had. The only. I was actually really impressed by Byron and George with George's responses during the same things that she was responding to. She basically didn't bring anything direct to the table except she's going to bring stakeholders into committees and meetings to talk about things, and that she wants the bus stop to be on Green Street. And,
Right.
I mean, that was 99% of what she brought up, and that's.
I saw that section of the thing, and I was thinking, so the Concord School District has about 30 languages spoken of students in the school, all kinds of different languages, mostly not France and Spain and
not Western
Sweden,
languages.
but you know, Portuguese, because there's Portuguese all over the world, Brazilian, Arabic, all kinds of different dialects. So I asked Kate this. I sent her an email. I said, I saw I haven't watched all of the debates that the forum the monitor did. I did watch this one section. I had it on in the background. I wasn't really listening, and then I heard the thing about the translators. And I emailed her and I said directly. I said, so there's dozens of languages spoken in Concord in the schools. So that means that there are parents speaking dozens of languages. Which ones are you going to hire interpreters for? Are you going to hire dozens of interpreters for a city council meeting that no one goes to, or very few people go to? Do they all go to the ethics board meeting, or the water meeting, or the public safety meeting that 3 people show up to? So you're going to have 26 translators or interpreters and 2 audience members. I mean, it's a nice thing to suggest. That we have translators available. That's a really nice thing. But how are you going to narrow it down when you have people who speak 30 languages? I will give her this though. I did see about 3 days ago. I was looking for something else, and I did do a background check on her. I understand why she doesn't drive now. She doesn't have a license. She's been charged before for driving violations. There is no record of her being evicted. She keeps telling the newspaper she's been evicted. There is no record of her being evicted in Concord District Court. They have no record of it. She didn't happen. I mean, I know it didn't happen. I spoke to all the parties involved, but there is no physical paperwork at court. But I happened to be searching, and I found that she had turned her Facebook page back on. And I have to say, I really like. It's Mayor of the Bus or something along that line. That's her slogan.
Mayor rides the bus.
Mayor rides the bus. Thank you. I saw that and I was like, oh wow, I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about property taxes and the solid waste fee that's going to be happening in 2 years. It's going to raise taxes close to 12%. I'm worried about a lot of other different things, which made up the bulk of the questions that were all, plowing streets and saving people. I want the cops to be able to be trained enough so that if I'm walking on a trail in East Concord and some homeless man shoots and kills me, that they solve the murder. Okay. Those are the things that everybody, and the homelessness crime is exploding. Those are the things that I'm hearing from by readers. Those are the things they're concerned about. But I got to tell you, the mayor that rides the bus is pretty funny. It's a pretty funny, cute slogan. Good for
Good
her.
marketing. It's good marketing. I don't know what
it's
it does
great
for anything in the real world, but it's really good marketing.
It really is, and maybe there should be a bus stop right in front of City Hall. There's a whole lot of other stuff other than going to meetings that people who ride the bus might need to get there for. That's a legit. It's a legit. I mean, those two things are legit things, I think. And it's the mayor that rides the bus.
All right, let's go to the two candidates that actually showed up to the debates, and I feel like it's very interesting to hear their conversations. One of them is George Jack, who is a longtime resident of the city. This is his first time running for office.
It's actually not his first time running for office.
Oh, not first time. What is?
No, in fact, you keep talking, and I'll look up what he ran for before. I believe it was school board and at-large city council, because I interviewed him a number of times. When he ran before, he ran for school board in 2013.
Oh, okay.
And I think there was one other race. Poet, author, ran at large city council. When was that? So I did do a story on him. He ran in 2017 too.
Oh, okay.
So this is his third run. 3 different races though. First time running for mayor.
He's an interesting character. I mean, it's fun listening to him talk. He's a really good storyteller, and
he has a great vibe. He has a great vibe about him.
Good advocate for what he believes in, which is really good. When you see him next to Byron Champlin, I mean, he comes across as green. He doesn't seem to necessarily know the systems like Byron knows them inside and out. He's been heavy involved with City Hall and the council and everything like that for a long time. A long time business owner. It's a fascinating comparison to see them both sitting next to each other.
Yeah, George is really, there's an innocence about him, and it really gets back to, and I think at some point maybe we can talk about this after the election. And I really hope that some of our residents delve into this part of it. The city council and mayor races used to be homemade kind of things. They used to be ordinary people who would get together and do extraordinary decision making. And I've made a comparison this cycle that there's way too many people who are political. They have agendas. And you used to have a guy, his name was Red Brochu. I think he served 3 or 4 terms as an at-large city councilor. He was a good old coot. Brochu Nurseries. He plowed driveways and landscaping. He was a red meat, deep red conservative Republican. He would never get elected today. They would all say, "Oh, he's a Republican," and they would not vote for him ever. He would lose today, but he won consistently. I believe it was 3 or 4 races. He was there for a long time until he died, and he never brought his politics into anything. And he listened to everybody. He called you back if you called him. He heard you out if you had there were a couple of major issues in 2005 and 2006 that I had to talk to him about, and he called me right back and spoke to me and gave me a few minutes to talk about issues. And that type of dude would never be elected today. And you can say that it's a changing city. I'm in my late 50s now. I spent a lot of time here. My family's been here forever. Cities change, but there was an innocent, homemade part of a business leader like a Red Brochu getting elected. George Jack is kind of the same way. He comes at it with bright eyes. He looks at the potential in everything, and there's a why not to him that's kind of exciting. Byron is so well known and knows everything, connects everybody, and can. In many ways, he will be similar to Jim Boulay. Jim Boulay was, we don't have a powerful mayor system in Concord, but you could call Jim Boulay and he could figure out how to get something done or fix and move it around or get you to somebody. And, or would pass it to the city manager, figure it out. He was a very good conduit. I think Byron will be similar like that. I also think that and there's a negative and positive to this aspect of Byron too. I also think he's going to bring people together, and I think that that's a good thing. But I would worry a little bit that you can't be friends with everybody. Yeah. And the issue is not, are we friends? The issue is, are we getting things done in the best interest of the city and the taxpayers? Similar with the school district. Is everything that you're doing in there the best thing for children's educational outcomes? And so if you go into it thinking you want to be everybody's friend, that's not a good thing. Because in the end, no one wants to see how the sausage is made. No one is supposed to be happy when all is said and done. When you build true consensus, and you can't be friends with everybody, because there's going to be times when people are going to be totally angry with you for something that you've done, and you can't worry about that because sometimes it's the best thing to do.
I mean, especially when you got to work alongside the city council, which has blatant activists that are on the council. It's what they do for a living. It's like you have to play politics, and not everyone's going to be happy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and I've heard this from a lot of readers, and I would say dozens. It's many readers going, who are these people who are running? Who there's going to be a new mayor. There's going to be at least 4 new councilors. You've got 3 new school board members. Well, potentially you have 1 incumbent and 2 open seats. So people are right to be concerned because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the turnout's going to be. We don't know what the body's going to be like. And I mean, the city council could be 5 new voices. It could be more than 5 new voices. And there are some really interesting people who have run this year on the city council. The biggest concern, and it's a relevant concern that readers have had, I've had it too, is the instability. But Byron, I think if Byron wins, and I think if George Jack wins too, I think if Kate won, she would be overwhelmed, and that's not because she is who she is, but when you can't answer a question, or you don't show up to answer a question about how you're going to keep taxes from going up 2 years from now by 12% because of a solid waste contract that's going to raise taxes by $4+ million, and you have no answers for that, you're going to be overwhelmed. Lots of people talking about composting and all kinds of other ideas that have been brought forward. At least they thought about it, right? So, assuming Byron wins, it's easy to say he's the front runner. He was probably going to win. Assuming he does win, there will be some stability there. You have 2 longtime at-large councilors. You're going to have 2 ward councilors, both of whom are nearby each other, Ward 1 and Ward 3. So they're going to be able to help other people. Who knows who the rest of the body is going to be? It could be it could be 8. I mean, right now it's going to be 5. Potentially one of those is Byron, who's going to move from an at-large citywide councilor to the mayor. But it could be pretty crazy. It'll be good for the news business. We'll have a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah,
a lot
definitely.
To write about
Schedule will be full.
I'm sure. Yeah, meetings will not be missed. Definitely, depending on some of the people that we get.
I mean, philosophically, I mean, it seems like, maybe it's like you're talking about the down-home candidate like George, like he's just a member of the community and not necessarily a key player. I mean, a lot of people used to know their people that were running because people were a lot more locally involved with organizations and things like that, and it's just not the culture in 2023, which is extremely unfortunate. I mean, in my opinion, that's the people you want running, and you want the people that are more connected to be running for the state level office and doing those sorts of things. As opposed to your
I agree with you
school board to be someone like, oh, I know Bill, yeah, he'd be great for the school board. He knows, he's got kids.
Betty knows everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I mean I agree with you completely. I do hope if George does not win, and I hope that he stays involved.
Yeah.
And I hope that there are some really interesting people who are running this year. And a lot of, and again, I'm in my late 50s, a lot of younger people. And when I say young people, I don't mean teenagers, but I mean, people in their 30s and early 40s who I consider still relatively young. Lots of young people getting involved, lots of moms getting involved. That's a good thing, and it's a good thing that not all of them were handpicked by the previous ward councilor. There used to be kind of this unwritten rule, and that was the folksy nature of it. Most of it was because nobody wanted to do the job, right?
Yeah.
So if ex counselor had been there for 10 years and they didn't want to do it anymore, they had to pluck somebody out of the community to be the person to do it, and they would encourage, this person's really great, and that happened a lot, and it was it's always been very territorial too. So we have a lot of it shouldn't be that way. People should just run. They really want to be involved and they can figure things out, or they have new ideas, they should run, and not just be the ones who are chosen by the incumbents who are leaving. So there are a lot of new candidates, a lot of new faces, a lot of new people. Don't personally like some of the political part of it. There's too much politics in it. But I'd like it to stay a little bit more intimate. You should not have to raise $11,000 to run for mayor. It's a ceremonial seat. You run a meeting, you choose people to be on boards, and that's the job. Jim made it a little bit more than it was, and that 2007 race between the late Catherine Rogers and Jim Boulay, that was a nasty race. They spent a lot of money on that race, and that's when Jim first got elected. But it's supposed to be a little bit more down home-ish, and maybe we'll get back to that.
Anything else on the mayoral race before we move on? All right, let's move over to.
It's good to have three. It's good to have three choices.
It is. It's awesome. I'm glad to see it's not just one person running. Say, okay, I guess this person's going to be the mayor. Why not? Especially when it's going to be a newbie. So it'll be really fun to see what happens there. Going over to the councilors. I mean, councilor at large. I mean, there's 5 people running. It was the poor Concord TV staff were probably trying to mic everyone up like crazy.
I know they were really good. We did an hour on that one. All the other debates were half an hour. There are 13 competitive races this year, and we did 12 debates. And the Concord TV staff, what a bunch of professionals! They just did an amazing job. We had minor scheduling issues, mostly on my end and the candidates' end, and they had a window of when the studios were open, and it really worked. And we just banged them out. We finished them this week. The last 2 were Monday and Tuesday, and I'm just stunned. My record before, I think, was 6 or 7 debates in the town of Belmont, Massachusetts. I think I had 7 one time, and 6 or 7, and this blew it out of the water. So hopefully it'll never happen again. And that is not to say, don't quote me on that no one should run. That's not what I'm saying. Everybody should run. There should have been more. All of the races should have been competitive. But I don't know if I can ever do 12 debates.
Yeah, that's intense. I definitely suggest, I'll put a link in the episode description of the playlist that Concord TV put together on their YouTube channel that has, scroll down to the bottom, all the debates are there, and then they've got messages from all the different candidates that are running too. So if you want to get informed on the people in your district, please do check that out. And I guess probably that's a good time to mention, go to concordnh.gov. /elections, and it has all sorts of information there on all the polling locations as well as sample ballots. So if you're not sure where you are, your ward map's on there, everything is all on there. Please do check that out. Be informed before you show up.
Now, there's no reason not to vote in this. I mean, there's a competitive race in every ward. There are tons of people running. There's no need and no reason to stay home.
What were some big issues on the city councilor side you were hearing?
Boy, I it's hard to it's hard to not editorialize, but I really was surprised. Well, let me take the good first. So, a lot of the candidates, when asked, because the first question pretty much every time was, there's going to a lot of people are worried about instability on the council because there's going to be 5 new members,
Yeah.
And potentially more. And how do you fit into that puzzle? How do you, either as an incumbent, because there are a couple of incumbents running, or challengers, or with open seats? How are you going to make sure that there's proper governance and stability with a new mayor, and potentially a third of the body is going to be new, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of people who talked about their leadership qualities, talked about the things they had already done, talked about the homework they had done, attending meetings, looking at things, looking at the issues, and there's a lot of people who want to be a stabilizing force. Whether we believe them or not, that's another thing. But I think they all came at that question with some really good ideas. I wasn't really impressed with the. I hate to come back to this. It's going to be a huge issue. Nobody believes me, but it will. The new solid waste contract is huge.
That's a big deal.
It's going to be millions and millions of dollars more, and no one has an answer on what to fix. And it's really important too. If I can take just 15 seconds. So for 10 years, and everybody says, well, we've been really lucky for the last 10 years. We paid $70 a tip for the trash, 0 for recycling. And then they went into the recycling market and sold as much of the recycling as they could, and that's why they got nothing. So now in 2025, fiscal 2025, it's going to be 100 for the trash and 100 for the recycling, meaning there's going to be no difference in the cost. And now between the two, and now the recycling is going to go from 0 to 100, and it's going to, the rough estimates, and I think that they're low, are going to be $2.5 to $4 million, which is a 5 to 8% tax increase on top of the normal tax increase every year, which is around 3 to 4%. One candidate said, one incumbent said, and I didn't follow up with them, and I probably should have. They said, I don't think we're going to ever have a 12% increase. We'll figure out a way to kind of get that 3 to 4% annual down, and we'll figure out. And I'm like, well, why haven't you done that when the trash bill was the great deal, 70 and 0? If you tell me, and this is not to beat up on that incumbent, because he's one of the most fiscally conservative incumbents. He's smart. He is one of the longest serving ones on that board. But he's basically telling me we spent 10 years when we had a really good deal with trash, overtaxing everybody. And because if we cut any of that 3 to 4% annual later in 2 years, we didn't need it before. And I didn't ask that follow-up, and I didn't even think about it until 2 days later. But that's kind of what they're going to have to look at. They're going to lose the pay-as-you-throw revenue, because what they're going to end up having to do is go to the automatic trash cans. So there isn't going to be the second driver to check to see if everybody has the purple bags. So no one's going to buy the purple bags. Or maybe they will, but they'd be dumb to, because they're going to end up paying for it either way.
Yeah.
They're going to pay for it twice then. They'll buy the purple bags, and they're going to get the taxes, because they're not going to be able to count on the purple bag revenue, because people like me are going to go back to Hefties, which are, much better. They don't rip and break, and you can fit more trash into one. You only need one of those a week, and I know, because that's what happened during coronavirus for 3 months when they got rid of the purple bags and not forcing us, and we compost and recycle here. Mm-hmm. The second issue too was kind of, there's a naivete, and it's well-meaning, but almost all of the candidates on the trash issue kept saying we need to move to community composting. And I'm sorry, community composting is not going to save $4 million.
No.
And the $4 million that's probably on the high side, but that's equal to an 8% tax increase over what we have. Each 1% is about $500,000. So that's what it's going to cost. And Could be composting or food waste is about 30 to 40% of the trash, according to some estimates. Maybe they're going to be able to get enough farms to pick up buckets every Wednesday from all of us outside and dump all of the, maybe this will work. It's still not going to save millions of dollars.
What's also kind of hilarious and about aspects of that too is it is time consuming and expensive to have yet another ecosystem of removing garbage from your home. That, guess what, families who are already struggling financially and time wise are not going to be able to take advantage of something like that. It's going to be the people that are well off and have the time and resources to be able to take advantage of that are going to be able to get into it.
Yep, and if you have the land, you're already doing it.
Yeah.
Why? Because you need the dirt next year to be able to plant your flowers and everything. So you don't have to buy the dirt again.
My apartment with bags of decaying stuff that I don't have a place to put.
Yeah. So and it got to the point by the time the fifth or sixth debate, I joked with one of the counselors after saying, they were like, what did you think? And we were just chit-chatting, and I said, if I have to hear community composting again, I'm going to just explode, because it might save us $500,000. It's not going to save $4 million. And it's just not. And you have to organize, 26,000 households. It's just never going to happen. Well-meaning, but never going to happen. The golf course clubhouse issue has been pretty hot. Lots of interesting things around that. I personally don't. It is the oldest municipal golf course in the country. I don't golf, so it's easy for me to say, repair Memorial Field, because I play softball there, and I don't golf, and I don't care about the clubhouse, and don't really think a city should own a big golf course like that. But it is a community asset. If you look at all the millions of dollars that were put into pools that some people never use and still paid for, you got to kind of look at it in a similar way. There was a lot of, I don't want to say class or gender bigotry on the golf course, but let's be honest, most of the people who use the golf clubhouse are old white men, and it really seemed like a lot of very younger women, a little bit left of center, are really out to stop the old white men want, and which is a better clubhouse. And the old white men weren't there saying we can't spend $3.5 million repairing all the pools. Again, it should be noted, in the 20 plus years I've been back, we've replaced the splash pad at White Park twice now.
What?
So the new there are two pools now at White Park, one with and so
that are only
there
open
were no
3 months out of the year.
Right, there were no elderly people down at the city hall, down at the council meeting, saying you can't vote for a new splash pad in White Park. So, so there is a little bit of, and it's in the other rich white old men, I should say, I think are primarily the people who use the golf course, I would bet. But so there was a tenor of kind of distinct changes in the city on that one, and. But there were some old white guys too who don't want to pay for the clubhouse either. I just think that dynamic was that dynamic was interesting, and a lot of people look at it as and we didn't. Lots of people did not say anything when we didn't spend $14 million, $16 million on a new downtown, and whatever, $12 or $13 million on a new community center. Now we're spending millions of dollars for the Boys and Girls Club to get a new building in Pennacook, and there's going to be a Pennacook branch library. It's going to be brand new right there. I mean, lots of interests have not fought all these other things that would be considered kind of recreational or used by everybody. And I don't use the Pennacook Library, but I'm still going to pay for it. Mm-hmm. I don't use the clubhouse. I'm still going to pay for it. So that tug of war between interests and new people in the city, and the age demographics and elite, versus concern for access by some people who can't take the bus to go to the golf course. That's an interesting dynamic, and it really shows how much the city has changed, or is changing.
How much was discussed over these regarding the homelessness situation?
There was a lot of discussion about housing. There really isn't much city councilors can do about housing. They can change zoning. They can encourage development. They can work with the city employees to get things done and encourage them. They have stood in the way of some housing projects, which hasn't been good. There's a lot of frustration with the amount of micromanagement done by the city over new buildings and things like that. But the homeless, I did ask everybody about the homeless crime problem. Most people, and a few people get it. It's a multifaceted problem. Um, it's not the family in the car that just had their home foreclosed. There's only a handful of those people. Maybe a few dozen out of almost 500 now. 3 years ago, there were less than 100 homeless people. Now we're almost up to 450. So it's like it's tripled, almost more than tripled in 3 years.
Wow.
We haven't had any type of 300 home units open in the city.
Yeah.
It's new people moving in from other cities and other places. A lot of mental health issues, a lot of people getting out of prison, sex offenders, things like that. People with drug addiction and alcoholism who are camping. And there are these fortresses around the city. And the firefighters are afraid to go into some of these camps. They're booby trapped. They have solar panel batteries with security cameras.
Wow.
It's really bad. And I won't discuss some of the horrific things I've heard that have gone on in some of these camps, but it's as bad as you can imagine. And I'm in the process of almost finishing a big story on it, but it's gotten to the point where people are just like, when is someone going to do something? At some point, something has to be done. The Housing First initiative is not working. It's 40 people have been placed in houses. That doesn't work when you have hundreds more show up over the same period of time. And people will say, well, how do you know that they just showed up? Well, I know by the fact that I look at all the new homes that are on the market and the apartments that are on the market. There are none. Yeah. There are no vacancies, meaning hundreds of people weren't foreclosed and evicted. They weren't here.
It's not the situation.
And maybe they were here, and other people moved in, and there was some shifting. That's possible. Most people are a few paychecks away from losing everything. That's all it's been that way since the Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah.
So it was that way before the Great Depression when we didn't have cell phones. Everybody has been, that way. That 90% of the people are there. That we've always been there, irrelevant of your ethnicity or your color or your gender. That's the normal thing, which is why you act responsibly, especially as much as you can. So a lot of that, but the crime part of it is a different part. You have about 140 people in 2022 who caused about 21% of all the crimes. They're all homeless people. They don't belong here. They're doing nefarious, horrific things. They are destroying people's private property. They are robbing from stores and harming people. And no one seems to want to step in. Those people are not people who are living in cars. They're dangerous people. And for whatever reason, we won't deal with it. And there were some people who, hey, I want to keep trying Housing First, or I want, we really need to find people to get them into psychiatric units and things like that. And there's all kinds of things that are being done. Millions and millions of dollars are being thrown at it. Not a lot of really solid answers that I will do this. But they're all kind of volunteers too.
Yeah.
Most of that part is just knowing what the problem is. And then you can kind of implement it. City manager and other people can kind of implement it by then.
All right, so we're running out of time here in this segment, so I want to quickly mention the Concord School District Board of Education. What's that looking like?
You've got 3 candidates running, so these are all zone seats. They used to be districts. So it's Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4 is one. 5, 6, 7 is another, and 8, 9, 10 on the east side of the river is the third. On the east side of the river, you have Brenda Hastings, who's the incumbent. She's a longtime resident, teacher at Broken Ground. She's running for re-election. She's challenged by two people. We didn't get to see Peter. He was sick the day of the debate, but Cassie Cameron showed up. They had a really good forum between the three of them. I didn't get to meet kind of an interesting thing with the Zone B seat. I live in Zone B, so I was really interested to meet Liz Bosher and Gil West. I invited both of them to take part in the debate. Liz said Liz declined, and then I said to Gil in a snarky manner, if you want to come and debate the empty chair, you're more than welcome to. And he said, no, I'm not going to show up either. And I was like, wow, okay, so I can't really say much about him. I can say Gil. Gil has worked in the Conval School District for many decades. I did get to do a short interview with him, and Boucher is a dietitian and the PTA mom at the McAuliffe Elementary School. And her signs are not legally compliant. For whatever reason, she won't fix her signs. And I keep asking her, why aren't you fixing your signs? The attorney generals have to be involved in it. And she said she marked up all her signs and then didn't. So it's very bizarre. But whatever. Again, people don't have to participate. That's the one race I didn't get, where the two of them chose not to participate. And then in Ward, the Zone A, which is the 4 wards, you have Jess Campbell, who was very involved in trying to save the cross-dressing art teacher at McAuliffe's job, and Michael Guglielmo, who was the parent who complained about the art teacher cross-dressing in the elementary school. There are 2 other candidates on the ballot. Both have dropped out. One has backed Guglielmo. One has just stayed neutral. There were 5 candidates at one point in that race, wow. and then they slowly started to decide not to. One person shifted, and then the other 2 decided not to run, even though they're still on the ballot and to actively campaign. They had their debate the other day too. That'll be up on Patch in a day or two. But it's been interesting. Most of the people, the big issue really is Runlet, and the middle school project's going to be $250 million when it's all said and done. Probably, maybe they cut it down because they're saying, well, that was the most expensive version, and I was like, that's like going to the Lexus dealership and saying, take out all the electronics. No Lexus comes without the electronics. I mean, you really, when they get to that Honda price, a low-end used Honda price that is going to work, I'll believe it when I see it. But otherwise, it's still going to be, $250 million. And boy, when they get done building all the houses that are online, there's about 3,000 over the next 3 to 5, 7 years. You better hope those enrollments go up because, if they don't go up, it'll be okay. But the costs of the budgets like this at the school budget,
right.
The enrollments are, or I guess it's the other way. Enrollments are going down, the budget's going up. So it's if the enrollments go up, the budget's just going to go up even more. And it's very there was no savings with the elementary school consolidation, which is disappointing after spending $91 million. And they have a lot of things. They have to catch up from coronavirus issues. Suspensions are down, which is great, but you still have a lot of serious issues in the schools. And they have the siting too of where they want to put the new middle school, which is the big debate too. A lot of stuff going on in the Board of Education. It's very important. So hopefully people will get out and vote and be a part of the process and not be the usual 11% who votes.
Yep, definitely.
They have no reason. There's no reason for no one. There is absolutely no reason. You always say don't. The running line is don't vote. It only encourages them. Well, guess what? Every single place there's a contested race.
Yeah. And
there's no reason to stay home. There should be 40 or 50% turnout. There's no reason to stay home.
And you should definitely check out the link in the description to Concord TV's YouTube channel and playlist, which will have all the debates on there. There's messages from the candidates in that playlist too. Please be sure to check that out. I've been very excited to try and promote what Tony Schinella at the Concord Patch and Concord TV did with these municipal elections. It's important to know what's going on in your own backyard. You're the one sending your kids to the schools. You're the one that's driving on the roads and taking part in the trash disposal process and such that all these individuals will make executive decisions on and voting decisions on. So thank you so much, Tony, for joining the show and for putting on these debates.
Hey, thanks for having me, AJ. And we really appreciate both Concord TV. I can speak for them as well as myself and Patch. Appreciate your push as well on your podcast and letting people know you were great at WKXL, and it's great to have you now too, working with you on the podcast and let people know about what's going on. Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks again, Tony. Go to facebook.com/ConcordNHPatch as well as on Twitter, and go to the Concord Patch website. Definitely check out Concord TV. They are on, if you happen to get broadcast television, they're on the cable box and such. Check that out, and check out their YouTube channel. All their programming is put there on demand. Also at NewEnglandTake.com, you get more from the show and all the back episodes of the program on YouTube. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.